Well, speaking of the Governor's Working Group, we're joined now by the head person of the Governor's Working Group right now in Military and Veterans Affairs, Secretary Larry Hall. Thank you so much for joining us. We want to talk about one of the major components of the Governor's Working Group, and what you do is working with the active duty, our bases here in the state. What is the current status of our bases in North Carolina?
Well, thank you, Jeff. Thanks for having us. As Secretary of the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, I get to work with active duty, the bases, as well as with our large veteran population. And in North Carolina, a lot of folks may not be aware of how big the military presence is. You've heard a lot about the 800,000 plus veterans. We think they're approximately 1 million. But when you look at 102,000 active duty personnel and 32,000 reservists and over 100 reserve and guard centers combined, you'll get an idea of how big the population of active and reserve are here in North Carolina. So big things are happening, obviously, with the federal government approving a budget that increases the amount of funding that's going to be available, but also with the individual bases. So exciting things have just happened. As a matter of fact, at Seymour Johnson, where they fielded the new tanker and are breaking ground for their new hangar to base those new tankers there at Seymour Johnson. And the F-35 new generation of stealth jets that will be the jet that will be used by all the armed forces as well as some of our allies will be based here in North Carolina at Cherry Point and also at Seymour Johnson. So we're on the cutting edge. When you look at what's happening with what's happening in the future of the military, the tactics, the weapons, all of those training opportunities, they're happening here in North Carolina at breakneck speed.
Now, of course, we want to keep those active duty guys, and ladies, when they come out of the service, we want to make sure we try to keep them here in North Carolina. What are we doing to try to make sure that they have jobs when they come out?
One of the big pluses for North Carolina as we go out and recruit is that we have a workforce that can't be matched by virtually any other state. One component of that is the military complex. You look at Camp Lejeune and Fort Bragg, both putting out in excess of 800 military persons a month that leave the service. And so President Obama provided a pathway where he required counseling to be given 6 months prior or a year prior to their leaving active duty, and if they were a career soldier, 2 years prior to plan that path for them to land successfully. So the community college system, we provide special assistance for veterans there, same thing at the university system, but as well we provide programs to ensure they have an opportunity to be employed by our current employers in the state, and obviously they're a pool of ready talent for corporations that we would recruit to this state. And so it's an invaluable resource we have. Again, a lot of times people overlook it, but it's something that employers really rejoice in knowing that they will have that continuing flow of trained personnel. It's a value add for North Carolina again because they receive federal training, they have the top skills, federal dollars pay for them, and when they come off active duty and stay in North Carolina, we have a trained worker that we know has leadership skills and discipline and will be a great person in the workforce.
And speaking of the workforce, one other factor when it comes to all the bases we have a lot of civilians who work on those bases as well. So we want to continue to keep those going. How do we work to make sure that happens?
Well, that civilian populace, primarily technicians, scientists, and engineers, and we can see them in large numbers, again, across all of our bases, in excess of 20,000 right now, and that number will go up. They also are dependent upon the military activity in our area, and so we expect to have additional troops stationed here. We did well under the last round of base realignment and closure, and so as we go forward, because of the Army having 1/4 of the Army's population worldwide, 1/10 of their population worldwide at Fort Bragg, and just adding 2,500 more troops here in the last few months, we expect to do better going forward.
Thank you, Secretary Hall, for being here.
Well, thank you, and remember to support the Guard and the Reserve as well as active forces in North Carolina.